Hey folks, it's Ken and the Data Monkey here again. And in one of my previous videos, I showed how the new pivot table auto refresh and spill potentials are going to have an impact to what we're actually looking at with pivot tables in the future. But one of the sort of things that I've picked up on from having conversations with a variety of people is that people are a little bit confused as to what this means as far as auto refresh for standard versus data model pivot tables and what's applicable to what. So I thought here that I would give you a little bit of a demo as to what's actually going on so you have a good understanding as to what auto refresh actually means and why, honestly, it's bringing the standard pivot table up to the compatibility with the data model in some regards, even though it actually looks like it's going the other way. So here, let's take a quick look at my data sample here. So I've got my Shire transactions data set here, and I've got about 5 transactions in place right now. Now you'll notice that I've got some queries here. I am loading these things to a data model. So we have a data model already set up, and I've kept this ridiculously simple. It's just a single table with a couple of measures. Okay. And I'm going to show you a quick demo here now of how these things actually play. So we're going to start by creating a new pivot table here. So I'm going to go and create a pivot table from table arrange. I'm just going to drop this right here on a standard worksheet. So this is directly from a table into our pivot table. We go to product and sales dollars, and we can see we've got about $11.2 thousand in this case. Now, next one I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a data model, which is built based on the fact that I'm reading this table via Power Query into the data model. So here we go. We're going to go into from data model. We're going to create our pivot table here. From our sales table, I'm going to grab product and sales dollars. And this measure is rounded, so we can see that, but it is the same value. Okay, so that makes sense. Pulling the data in, we're summarizing it. Cool deal. Now I want to show you the most dangerous type of pivot that there is. And that is where we go and we say, let's create ourselves a pivot table against the data model. No problem there. But rather than use the sales table that is in the data model, we've got this other one here. And this is always a confusing thing around building tables with Power Pivot. There's these fields here that have these golden buckets on them. Those are the ones that are in the data model already. And then there's these plain Jane boring tables. Well, this one happens to be this table right here. That honestly, I wish that this did not show these, or if you did something like I'm going to do right now, or you said product and sales, you notice a slight hesitation there? That's because it was loading this directly into the data model. It's not going via Power Query. And you can get this by using these where you just like add the fields to it, or if you try and use something like a distinct count, it'll silently set up a table behind the data model. And this, I think you're going to see, is where things are going to lead to some serious confusion. All right, same values across the board. Cool. Now let's add some data. So I'm going to go and grab just a couple of records here. Control X. We're going to go and paste them into our table. And we can see that now our pivot table, that is our standard pivot table, has automatically updated. And you're thinking, well, that's amazing, but how come the data model table doesn't? All right, so here is what I'm going to show you right now. This table was brought in via Power Query. So let's go and grab our Power Query and let's refresh the sales table. Now, we're refreshing the Power Query here. It's going to go through, do its thing, loads the data into the data model, and now this table updates to be the latest version. But notice that this one is not. Why is that? Well, because this one isn't based against a Power Query. The important thing to realize here is that the pivot table with the changes to the Excel pivot table now always shows the most recent data that is in the data source. This pivot table, our standard classic pivot table with its, supercharged upgrades for auto refresh, is now showing the data. It doesn't need to be refreshed into the pivot cache. The pivot cache is reading against this raw table. So why didn't the data model? Well, the data model uses Power Query to load things in. And honestly, I don't think you want an automatic refresh via Power Query into the data model, because can you imagine if you were working with an external data source that was changing frequently and it kept refreshing all the time? That would be a nightmare. But what about this guy? Like, we updated this table. Why didn't it update? Well, and this comes from the fact that the data model was built in like 2010, and the data model is somewhat disconnected from it. So we need to force this to update directly. So let me go and add some more data here. I'm going to grab some more rows, Control X, Control V, we'll paste those in. Notice that we've got our nice new fresh basic pivot table is updated because the data source is updated, but neither of these two have updated yet. So let's hop into Power Pivot. I'm going to go and find my sales Excel table, which is this one here that has its 5 rows. And we can just pull this down. We can see that it's bringing out these guys here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit the refresh button. And you'll notice that it comes back and says, great, we're going to refresh now. We got 13 rows of data. And when I hit close, well, actually, I don't even need to hit close. You can see this is already updated to show the values, even though it tells me the data model's changed, select the workbook. Doesn't matter. If I come back and look, these two things are now in sync. But this one's not. So why? Well, because we refreshed the individual table and we didn't refresh the Power Query. So if we go back and we take a look here, once again, if we look at our sales Excel table, it's got 13 rows of data. If we go back to the sales table, because the Power Query wasn't refreshed, we've only got 7. So this is showing us exactly what is in the data model. This table is always live to what's going on. The pivot table is always live to the data source. So everything's working exactly the same as what these pivot tables now do. The difference is we've got a Power Query between them, or we have this direct link between the table and the data model itself. So we're going to do one more of these things. I'm going to go grab the rest of this data, Control X. I'm going to go and paste this in here, Control V. There we go. So again, we've got all of our pivot tables are out of sync here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to refresh the data model tables, all of them. And to do this, the easiest way is just to go to Data, Refresh All. And you'll actually watch these. The Power Query refreshes first, then the data model data refreshes second. Okay, so number one rule of thumb I'm going to give you right now is never, ever, ever go and add to data model via here. Don't try and click on something to be able to get a distinct count. If you're going to do this, deliberately load your data through Power Query. I really, really wish that when you actually went over to this little area, if you were to click on one of these, I really wish it would create a Power Query to load it to the data model so that at least everything was consistent. This is a method that was sort of pioneered back in 2010, 2013 that is outdated now. We don't want to use that. Okay, so the thing to remember here is your pivot table will always now give you a live response to what is in the source data table. What's different is that the data model source data has not been changed, and that needs to be refreshed manually. Whereas in this case, a standard pivot table is being built off of something in the worksheet, and that plumbing is now coming through. Okay. I think the confusing part here is that this data is inside the worksheet, and that's where it goes via Power Query. It'd be kind of nice if the Power Query maybe might refresh when you change something within the workbook. Although again, I'm not totally convinced because that could be a huge amount of data that is going through. And because Power Query can be a little bit slow, it might be pretty impactful. So I'm not really sure we want that at the end of the day anyway. Now, there's one more component around this too that I've seen reported is that the spill error only works with classic pivot tables. All right, let's test that one now. So here's our classic pivot table. We can go and say, hey, let's go and sum our units. And that one works just fine. And maybe we'll put price on it. Boom, that's going to cause a spill error. Okay, fair enough. So these ones work. Let me just get rid of that. I'm going to do the next one in a slightly different way here. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to my sales table, and I'm going to add kingdom on columns. That's going to make more data than I have room for. Whoa, look at that. So that's Power Pivot generating a spill error because this is just a pivot table. It's in sync with its data source. It still works the same as anything else. So whatever the data source is for your pivot table does not matter as far as the spill error goes. So I'm going to go take that one off. There we go. If I block this, let's go back and take a look here. We'll go to our sales Excel table. We'll put kingdom on here as well. Boom, we get a spill error. Okay, so your pivot table spill is related to the pivot table. It is not related to the data source. The refresh that you've got is related to the data source and how up to date it is. Whatever is in the data source will always be showing in the pivot table. The big question is, if you're working with something like Power Pivot, you need to refresh the data source where when you're working with a standard pivot table in the workbook, it knows that that data source is actually connected to it directly. Okay. So that's the big secrets of what's going on inside these pivots going forward. that you'll just want to be aware of.